little bit of YouTube versus old Hollywood here. This is a crazy, just overall year so far at the box office in the world of cinema. Obsession and Backrooms absolutely taking Hollywood, the world, the country, we will say, by storm in terms of box office dollars and success. It's got us all wondering, especially with the Mandalorian and Grogu getting absolutely walloped by these two films. Is Star Wars cooked? Is this a sign that this is pretty much the end of times for George Lucas's Fantasyland and this franchise we have grown to love for so many decades?
If you'd asked me 6 months ago, I'd say no. I'm starting to think it's maybe a possibility because of the fact that, Star Wars has been a name brand IP for years. This is the first movie they've had in theaters in 6.5 years, Mandalorian and Grogu. And it was relatively, I don't want to say cheap, but it was only, I think, $160, $170 million budget. And it made 80 its first weekend. It dropped 69% in the second weekend. Made only 25 million, only projected to make 15, I think, the third. That is, if you are an industry insider or you know Hollywood at any degree, a 69% drop is devastating. That's awful. That's horrendous. And I think the reason it is happening, as you started to rightly point out, is because of a couple things. One is the fact that it's basically, from everybody that I've seen, I have not seen the movie yet. Everybody
Same.
I've heard of, it's said basically this is a truncated fourth season created into a 2-hour, 20-minute movie. And it does nothing new or interesting with the characters. There's nothing special about it. It feels very cookie cutter. All those things
Kind
that
of
I was
plays the
worried
hits.
plays the hits. Everything that I was worried about what was going to be, people keep telling me it is. Which I initially had said I'm going to wait to watch it on when Disney comes to Disney Plus. Now I'm not even sure if I want to do that. If you would have told Corrye of 10 years ago that, I would have thought you were nuts. But it's what it is. The problem is that we're asking these younger generations to buy into IPs that a lot of them don't have any investment in anymore. So that's hurting in the process. And you also took Star Wars and you made it into television shows. That's the other problem too. Although I'm not ready to say, be chicken little and the sky is falling and Star Wars is completely cooked forever. I'm always of the opinion, and I've heard this said before, and I think it's true. You are just one hit movie or from turning your franchise around. You really are. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
look at Batman. Everyone thought Batman was dead after Batman and Robin. And then Christopher Nolan comes in and listen, Batman Begins wasn't super successful box office wise, but man, he turned it around with The Dark Knight. That's for sure. Makes over $1 billion in that case.
I think
And
there was a lot of excitement though after Batman Begins.
Yeah, I think there
Because it
really
felt
was.
like it was too soon upon the 90s movies.
Yep.
But once I think those trailers came out, once we saw that Christian Bale was attached to it and Michael Caine and some other folks, then it really had potential. Because at that point, Christopher Nolan was not well known at all.
He wasn't. And then that's kind of what happened. And I think to some degree, listen, the landscape has changed.
You've
As you
also
said,
got lightning in a bottle here with those two films.
It may be lightning in the bottle, but I think it might be the future of the industry. You're talking about two dudes who basically cut their teeth on YouTube. And if you talk to him, especially the guy who, I forget what his name is, who did Backrooms, the dude can't even buy a drink yet. And he is incredibly intelligent young gentleman. He knows his stuff. He knows film history. He knows, he is a very smart dude. So people are starting to, this is almost like a balancing level. It's like you don't necessarily, it's like a grassroots situation. You don't necessarily need to know a person anymore. I mean, still think that's the degree, but people are going to go and make their movie the way. And this is the people that they're trying to get, because they're trying to get young people to come back in the theater, right? This is them telling you what they want. They're serving it up to you on a silver platter if they want. Look, listen, it makes no sense for me. I went and watched He-Man on Thursday night. I have my own thoughts about that. Didn't really work for me, but I couldn't and listen, I walked out of there thinking, the only people that they are making this movie for is me. 47-year-old dude who had that 5-year period where He-Man was popular back in the 80s. And of course it's tanking at the box office. Because if you ask anybody who's like Gen Z or Gen Alpha, they're like, what the hell is He-Man? What the hell is Masters of the
And
Universe?
it's not even
Why
close to
should I
being in the
care?
zeitgeist.
No. I mean, like, even like people forget that the 87 film, which was right at the tail end of the He-Man craze, bombed horribly. Like, it did not do well at the box office at all.
So it's kind of beloved for those of us who watched it on, you know, cable and HBO afterwards.
Sure. Yeah, true.
I still can't believe that one was made, to be honest.
I honestly
not
don't
that
know.
I'm sorry, not that one, the newest one.
Yeah.
Because who's calling for that? Who's asking for it? It's almost like one of those things where the idea of it is interesting.
Yes.
But past the actual idea, it's like, not so sure.
The expiration date was way past there. And
yeah, when Reagan was in office.
The other thing too, I think, is not being pointed out enough, is that we've talked about this before. One of the reasons the ways to get the box office back and going again is you've got to make movies for cheaper. You've got to make movies for cheaper. And like, listen, Obsession, $750,000. I think Backrooms cost $10 million. And they're both wildly, massively successful. I think where you're going to start to see some of the box office coming back, and you're already seeing this to some degree, is with these lower budget films blowing up. You know what I mean? Why it makes no sense to me sometimes. Listen, as much as I love Dial of Destiny, that movie should not have cost over $300 million to make. That's just it doesn't make any financial sense anymore. You've got to be able to look at, okay, can we make these smaller movies for $30-40 million or whatever and get return on investment? I mean, look at, like, listen, it's not out yet. It's out in October, but I'm calling the prediction now that I'm going to say that Clayface, which is made for $40 million, is going to make upwards of $300 to $350 domestically alone. I really do believe that, because I think it's going to be a good movie, and it doesn't have to go as far to break even anymore. You know, it's because if you look at, there's a formula actually for how you look at return of the break even point. You basically take your budget, you add in the cost for marketing, and then you multiply that by 1.5, and whatever you get is typically your break even point. And if you're getting to a situation like you are with like Avatar and whatnot, where your break even point has to be is $1.5 billion, that is a freaking problem. And if that continues, yes, Star Wars is going to be cooked, because you're making these movies too expensive and you're not giving me any new ideas. You're saving me the same old pablum that I've been getting for decades. I need something fresh. So if Star Wars wants to succeed, they need to do those two things. They need innovative storytellers, and they need people that are going to make them for cheaper. I think the true bellwether test of this, to answer your question at the beginning, Luke, about is Star Wars cooked, is next year when we get Star Wars Starfighter. If that's more of the same old shit, you're going to get the same results. If it's something that's great and something that's relatively not, $300 million to make, Star Wars could be back on its feet again. I don't think we'll know that real answer until next year.